Welcome to this session of Tech Talent Talk. My name is Birgit, and this is Oliver.
Hi, I'm Oliver, and I do sustainable recruitment.
And I'm Birgit. I work as a leadership coach and engineering leader. I advise people about creating high-performing teams. Tech Talent Talk is about bridging the gap between recruitment and engineering. We have another guest today, which is Yamila Mayo, and we are talking about kindness in the workspace and kindness as a leader. Yamila is an engineering leader with over 15 years of experience and in technical background as well, now focusing on leadership and people. She is most fulfilled when people grow or learn from working or collaborating with her. This focus on people allows for more and better tools to grow engineers, build high-performance teams, and negotiate with stakeholders while still being efficient at delivering projects, achieving results, and balancing the team's well-being in highly organized environments. She believes kindness isn't contagious and that we can change the world on act of kindness at a time, and that we can take the tech industry to new heights by leading with kindness. Yamila, the first question, this is for you. What does kindness and leadership mean to you, and how does it shape your approach to leading teams?
So first, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here. And what does kindness mean for me in the work environment? I think it's the same that it means in life in general, right? It's caring about people, like remembering that there's someone there who has their own struggles, their own strengths, and how does it shape my work as a leader? Like in the 3 P's of leadership, you have people, you have processes, you have projects. That's my order of priorities. Because if you have people that are happy, motivated, engaged with what they're doing and they're growing, they will actually help you improve the processes because they want to work even better and feel better. And if you have engaged people who are growing and great processes, projects kind of come along on their own. I mean, of course, you have some project management to do, but it's so much easier if foundations of people and processes are in place. So that's how it influences my work directly.
I must say, like, I'm also on the side of saying like that kindness kindness at a time can change the environment. I for myself, I was in very different environments. I was in very toxic environments. I was in kind environments. I was in motivated environments. And I read an article also about like from an engineering manager who figured out also, she's very interested in science, that toxicity can spread like a virus. So if you're like, basically, I mean, we all know by the time how viruses spread since Corona. Yeah, you have one spot, and then this is basically infecting another spot, and this spreads out then to other nodes, and you have like, I don't know, exponential growth of some sort of infection. And now toxicity in itself, if you have like one person that is frustrated about themselves, then this person might infect the environment, for example, with toxicity, right? And we also know that negativity can spread easier than positivity, which means like she figured this mechanics basically out and created a blog post about it. And I was like, you figured this out. Like, you figured this out. It was really a great blog post. And now I'm figuring out the opposite. It can happen with kindness as well. Maybe it takes more effort because we need to be more aware of it. Of course, like when someone is bugging us the entire time, of course it takes energy, and therefore we will go home exhausted. But if we are taking care of ourselves and be aware of it and be resilient of the negativity a person spreads, we might be able to catch the negativity, shield the entire environment, and therefore spread positivity as well.
Mm-hmm. You know, what's interesting, Birgit, is actually Burnout is also contagious, like talking about negative things that can expand. But kindness and compassion are also contagious. Like there are studies that actually show this. There's this one study where they had people watch videos of acts of charity, right? And the control group didn't watch acts of kindness. It was like just random videos. Those who actually watched acts of kindness donated 25% more to charity than the ones who didn't. So this is like, first, it's proven, and kindness propagates to scale of 3, so it affects your friends' friends, and your friends' friends. So it's just as important not only to catch the whatever is toxic and happening, but also to actually be conscious about being kind, because the kinder you are, the kinder people will be around you as well.
Exactly.
I think in order to spread kindness, unpopular opinion, but it might be also necessary to isolate those who are not kind. I just had a conversation with the CEO this morning who told me exactly a story about that. He's in sales, so sales is not tech. Okay. In sales, you have to be much more extroverted. You're also selling with your mood and your face and your happiness. Okay. But the general rule might also apply to other teams. And he said a couple of months ago, an employee of him came to the office, and she really looked like pissed, like her entire face, extremely grumpy, extremely in a bad mood. It's not having a bad day, it's like really something serious happened. And when someone is having a bad day, he is the one who tells them, go for a walk, go for a coffee, go home. This day is wasted for you, and it might be wasted for the others as well if you infect them. I thought this is actually not bad, especially in sales. It really spreads even more like a virus. But with this employee, he took the time to take her out for a walk for 5 hours and to listen to whatever she had to tell, work-related things, personal things. And he said afterwards he felt he was maybe the first time she talked to in weeks or months. And her ability to release the steam was what calmed her down. But initially, his idea was to not confront her colleagues with her mood, to take it out of the group and trying to resolve it. Isolating might be a harsh word, but it's after all, like we talked about terms.
Absolutely. Like I was thinking the same today when I walked home. And exactly that came to my mind. Like, we take time to fix processes, we take time to fix infrastructure, but I actually have never seen any company to take time to fix the culture. Like, let's say there is a person or a team that has a bad time, that, like, most of the time what we do is to, like, remove the person from the environment, right? Maybe also remove the person all, like, completely from the environment. Yeah, so let the person go. So this is a strategy that I have seen to, like, kind of fix the culture. But my opinion is that this is the wrong way to go because of so many reasons that basically also will spread negativity and toxicity. I feel like that before letting someone go, or like doing something that cannot be basically to turn it back, we should try to take time to fix the culture as well as we do fix the infrastructure or fix processes. As soon as we say, hey, our infrastructure is so bad, the tests are holding us back, we cannot complete any projects, we are taking time, we're taking weeks to improve the infrastructure. But it also might be that our mood, our, like, behavior, how we're dealing with people, how we're dealing with ourselves, and with our surrounding, we are not taking the time. We are leaving it completely to the people themselves. But I feel like we as companies, as organizations, should take as much as energy into this one as we do in our infrastructure and our processes.
Mm-hmm.
I have an idea why it is like that, but my opinion doesn't count at this moment. Yamila, what do you think? Why it is like that?
I don't know why that works this way. I mean, I think in general, companies at the end of the day need to make profit, right? And so it's a lot of culture is transactional. And that's also always something that needs to be kept in mind. At the end of the day, you need to be profitable. Otherwise, like, you can't have people either if you don't make a profit. But I do really believe that, and people are important. And in this sense, that taking time to be with them. An example you gave, Oliver, I think that's a great example in both senses. Isolating the person for a while, it's a great thing to do if the person can't handle people right now. Taking time to talk to them is super important, because you're showing them that you actually care. And that can be a game changer, not only in how that person feels, but even in retention aspects, right? If they want to keep working for this company, if they want to stay with you and your team. And another strategy, I think, for dealing with someone who's having a bad time is being open about it. Like, if I'm going through something really bad, being able to tell my team, hey guys, I'm having a really bad day. My face is not related to any of you. Like, something has happened to me. Maybe you don't want to talk about it, and you just say, I'd rather not talk about it right now, but just know I'm going through something. So this actually activates compassion in other people as well, right? Because if you're building trust and people know each other, they will also care about it. They will give you your space if you ask for it, but most likely they will also support you and be there for you. And people will start saying, hey, how can I help you, right? Is there something I can take from you that will make your day easier today if you're having a very bad day? Being able to share this with the people around you is the third factor that also tends to make everything so much better. And especially as a leader, like, we need to lead with example in these kind of things. I mean, you need to be the first one to say, hey guys, I'm having a bad day. If I'm harsher than usual, like, it's not related to you, bear with me, I apologize in advance. And if you have an answer that is harsher than usual, then you need to apologize later, right? Even if you explain that this could happen, if it does happen, you need to acknowledge it and also be able to apologize for it. Because acknowledging your mistakes also generates a safe environment for everyone else to acknowledge their mistakes as well and not feel judged while making mistakes. And that's the way we all learn also. So again, and this can be extrapolated to all levels of the organization, which is super hard, right? Because if you have like these bubbles of perfectly happy teams, but leadership is extremely toxic, because I've been in companies like that, sometimes it's a war you can't win, regretfully. And in those cases, maybe your best option is to actually change companies, at least to somewhere where your values as a leader are more aligned with what you're actually trying to do with the change you want to bring to the world. Sometimes you also need to pick your battles, when to stay, when to leave.
You talked about leaders themselves, that they also kind of need to look into themselves and also act out of kindness, which I personally like as well. And I like to mention an example that might be funny, but it actually happens. You know, you have leaders who absolutely have no clue about how they can engage and motivate people. Totally new to leadership. They think that dominance is the way to go. Like, you need to do this, you need to do that. Do it now. And like kind of start screaming as well. And, you know, as a coach, I feel like, okay, you cannot hold dominance against dominance. So in this case, it is not something that you need to do in order to connect to this person, so that you can teach the person a different way of leading. And I find it quite interesting that the people who act out of dominance are connecting with you when you act with kindness.
Yes.
So they might scream at you, they might be very aggressive with you, they might like be very dominant with you, but if you still hold the resilience and act out of kindness, and you are, of course, it's exhausting, I know, but if you are continuing this kind of behavior of kindness, they will connect with you and they say you are a good person. I will always ask you for like any questions and so on and so forth. They will start to trust you. And this I find very, very, very interesting. And eventually they will adapt their own behavior.
I once had a boss. He was the boss of my boss, actually. And he was very different from every supervisor I have seen in this company. Like most of them were actually not skilled when it's about people, when it came to people management, and they have been way too long in the same company, so they haven't had the advantage of comparing. But this guy, he came from big companies who were very advanced when it came to culture. And what he saw in the company that I was working for was a complete mess. Like toxic environment per definition, lots of parties fighting against each other because the leadership level didn't provide clear direction and they did not provide clear rules and values to act on. And in this mess, it was a very emotional atmosphere. Like I have to say, I almost burst into tears because it was so tense. I took it so personal what happened, although it was like strictly business affairs. He once told me, and I will never forget that sentence, Oliver, like no one in this world gets up in the morning and decides to be an asshole. People just don't do that. So there might be a reason why they act like that. Try to understand the reason. And this is a sentence that I keep repeating for myself like every couple of months whenever I witness someone that I would call an asshole. I simply don't, because there might be reasons. And this makes it possible for me to act with kindness towards them. And this is like completely shocking to them.
Yes, and to elaborate on this, I fully agree, by the way. I think in some cases, there's no intention in what they're doing, and it's just a communication style, actually. I mean, I've been there, to be honest. I have been years ago much harsher than I am now. I'm a very direct person, and I've been in situations where people didn't like what I was saying. But really, they didn't like how I was saying it, right? So I had to work a lot on improving my communication skills, actually, to get my message across the right way, the way I intended it to. So in that case, sometimes it's just a communication style issue. So it's worth asking the question when someone is being an asshole, as you say, like, is this really what you're trying to tell me, right? Or is it just coming out extremely wrong on the one hand? And in other cases, maybe they know they're being harsh, but they are completely unaware of the impact of what they're saying or what they're doing. And the moment you tell them, hey, did you realize, because I've had this situation even in my team, people who are very direct and say things in a very like harsh manner, respectful but harsh, like, are you aware that this makes people feel this way, and this way? And how are you aware? And their answer usually is, no, I'm not. On the contrary, I'm expecting them to tell me, shut up, you're an asshole. I'm like, but people are not all like you. I mean, if you're a senior person and you're telling this to a junior, he will never even speak up to you again. And is that what you're actually intending as a consequence? And when you make them aware of that, they usually are horrified by the consequences of what they're saying. So it's also about understanding the motivation behind whatever it is they're trying to say or do, right? And making them aware of the consequences, because it might be super obvious to us, but so many times it is not to the person who's saying it or doing it.
I think acting harsh or acting like an asshole, however you put it, or unfair, or however you call it, that's also a matter of definition.
Yes.
Like, have you defined something to compare it against? Have you told people what is okay and what not? And like most companies didn't.
Exactly.
So this is a way of indirectly allowing people to do that because it's not defined how to do it better.
Yeah.
It's like in the kindergarten. Yeah. If you tell the boys or if you don't tell the boys to not pee against the walls, they will just do that because they can.
Yes.
I have led very big teams also. And I know that many times that when you're trying to communicate something, that a lot of people just simply won't get it, even if you make them like sign a paper that they have read it and understood it, they will still not understand it or they will still not read it and understand it. And I notice that the resilience of like not being angry when someone is not understanding the 10th time. This is also something that we as leaders basically need to learn, right? Because otherwise we are putting pressure on people who, for some reason whatsoever, have not put their attention to what you said or what you wrote or what you presented. And if you do, you then again like act out of no kindness, toxicity, aggression, dominance, and so on and so forth. Like, why didn't you understand? Why you're not so, And this also makes people fearful because, like, for some reason they didn't understand it the 10th time. It doesn't matter. For me, it doesn't matter anymore if someone doesn't understand it the 10th time. And I do notice if someone says it intentionally or like out of a lie. So I do notice I have like some methods on how to get it out. Yeah. So I just repeat it again and show them, like in a one-on-one, for example, that how the processes work, how where the misunderstanding was. And so often I also get feedback in order to be able to improve the processes as well. And the ones who use this method of like, well, yes, I got it the first time, but I still want to do this, my way. That might create chaos. This will lead them to different kind of actions that I take. But it's fair action, it's fair action. And this, the people will know. And so it's kind of interesting because other departments see this as well. And so they kind of refer to me as like the kind leader for some reason, I don't know, which is quite interesting. But let's also talk about burnout. It's a quite interesting topic to me because I also have led people who like kind of trusted me that much that they said to me, hey, Birgit, I don't want to like explode, but I have this issue. I go to therapy and this and that. And they started like crying. How's it for you, Yamila? When like how can kindness help basically teams navigate through like tough projects, especially in order to prevent burnout, but also if they actually have burnout?
Okay, I'm gonna separate my answer in two parts, right? Because someone may come to you and be open about it, and that's amazing. It means you have built trust and like they can confide in you, right? But sometimes they're not even aware that they're close to burning out. So it's also on us to actually be paying attention constantly to cues, right? So how do you realize someone may be at risk of burnout? So maybe it's a change in their demeanor, right? Someone that is a very like sunshiny person and smiles a lot might start not smiling that much. That means something is happening there. Or someone who's a good performer might actually stop delivering as they usually did. So something's happening there. Or maybe they delivered the same as always, but you notice they're working late every single day and they usually don't. It means it's taken them more time to do the same things, but they still deliver. So if you pay attention to these kind of subtle changes, you can actually ask the question, how are you doing? Right? And then that's such an important question. I've had conversations with other leaders where they come to me like, hey, I don't know what to do with this guy. He's underperforming. And was he a good performer before? Yes, he was. He was great. Okay, so something happened. Have you asked him like how he's doing? And the answer was no, I haven't asked him how he's doing. Like, go and ask him. And that question opens a door to like so many things, right? So once you actually catch that someone may be burning out, it's about being very honest with the person. Okay, what triggers the burnout, right? Because there may be certain situations in the day that triggers them more than others. So maybe it's an overwhelming amount of Slack messages because they know that they have to, everything they need to answer will require a lot of energy because they're the expert on something, for example. So then, okay, how can you actually address this specifically to remove that energy fatigue that they have from that and understand what things bring them energy? Maybe they really enjoy coding on a certain project. So try to, for example, I don't know, don't make them the leader of a project right now. Just let them code for a while until like, and things that actually energize them. And is sometimes making decisions may tire them out. And because making decisions requires a lot of energy as well. So sometimes you need to micromanage that specifically. Like give them, I've had a senior come to me and tell me, hey, Shami, I need you to micromanage me. Like tell me what you want me to do every day. That we usually don't do that ever with that guy, right? But for 2 weeks, he needed me to make a list at the end of my day of what I wanted him to do the following day. So he didn't have to think. He just went through the list and did everything. But he needed that for 2 weeks because he was going through something personal that was tough. But that already relaxed him so much from the decision making, the stress of knowing if he was working on the right priorities, right? Does it require more energy of us as leaders? Yes, for sure. But that's also our job. It's enabling people to be the best they can and setting them up for success regardless of the circumstances they're in. Like, let's make the most of whatever little energy they have. At least that's my approach to this.
I want to add something here, if I might. Yes. And I'm saying this from personal experience. I had a burnout 5 years ago. I was diagnosed actually 5 years ago in 1 week. I celebrated it last weekend. And burnout is a term that, from my understanding, is sometimes very often misunderstood. It's an umbrella term for a lot of things.
Yes.
What you have described, to me personally, sounds someone is overworked or someone's senses are overly triggered. This is why they cannot decide for priorities or whatever anymore. To me, since I've seen it, this is a symptom. It's not the root cause. And I think, unfortunately, as a leader in the work environment, your possibilities are limited to go to the root cause and to heal it. Because and I can just speak for myself, but I know it's for many people like that, might not be for everyone. What leads people to go into such a situation where they face burnout, to work over hours, to work 10, 12, 14, 16 hours, whatever, and then starting to react weird, is because they derive all their energy, all their validation, all their self-esteem from work. And if this doesn't happen, if they don't get the appreciation because they didn't manage to deliver a project in the expected quality or on time, or I don't know, colleagues or leaders just forget to say the nice phrase as they did as usual, like worlds might collapse for these people simply because they derive all their energy, all their self-esteem from work and not from their private life. And this is the huge problem those people face. So what they actually need to do is to build up something in their private life that gives them energy, validation, and self-esteem. As a leader in the work environment, like, it's unfortunately like limited capacity and might be also overstepping boundaries here and there, to point people to this conclusion. And unfortunately, I was one of the ones. They have to learn it themselves.
We have, so this topic is super, super complex.
Yeah.
And I am reading into this for more than 10 years now. And finally, I decided to study it. Yeah. So psychology. Of course, there's more than that. I would also recommend if one wants to study it in their free time, psychology and neurobiology. These are the really deep knowledge that you need in order to understand this topic. And not only overworking is something that can lead to burnout. It could also be underworking, so being bored all the time. It has something to do with our neurobiology, basically. What can also lead to a burnout is too much happiness, actually. We think of happiness as something super healthy, but if we have one of the emotions, let's keep it simple. Yeah, if we have one of those emotions too much, that might lead to burnout or bore-out. A healthy like balance would be to like be so a little bit neutral, like having neutral emotions, maybe going into one of those emotions a little bit. Yeah, you can peek out basically into one of those emotions also, but it shouldn't be like too much. So if someone, for example, is let's take the positive emotion. If this is peaking out for a longer time, this also leads to depletion of the hormones that leads to positivity. And therefore, there might be an imbalance within your body. And therefore, you might also lead to a burnout. Not only, so the symptom, Yamila, you have witnessed, it can be this, but it could also be fear. Yeah. So if people are taking too many of the tasks, two things can happen. Yeah. One might act out of fear and things like I need to take a lot of control in order to tell people that I'm a really capable person. And the other one is highly motivated, a little bit too much motivated, taking on all of the things because everything is interesting, curious, and so on. And this also might lead to depletion of and then into burnout. Oliver, you wanted to say something?
I just want to add something briefly because I feel like we are talking very much and Yamila doesn't. So burnout is a kind of depression, actually. And depression from a hormonal perspective, and lots of people don't see it that way, is just an imbalance of certain hormones in your brain. It means you have something too much or something too little. And what Birgit has just described, you could also do with drugs, for example. If you do drugs,
this is basically drugs, yeah.
Hormones explode, but then, you know, the roller coaster comes. And same as with depression, there's simply a lack of something. And taking it as a pill that, you know, doesn't really help. So you have to get people used to release those hormones for themselves by doing something that actually is good for them. Something that my therapist always says, since we use this word kindness so often, you as a leader can be kind to people, yes, but people have to learn how to be kind to themselves.
Yes. Actually, that's something I work a lot with my team as well. Because I agree with what you said, Oliver. What I describe are symptoms. They're never the root cause of the burnout itself. And sometimes it's this lack of self-love that translates to work things, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just stressful situations that are happening in life. And if you can try to understand with the person, you have better tools to help them not affect their work performance as much, ideally. Or you can help them ease the load of work if it will like make their life harder. But this self-compassion thing, like, it's super important, not only for burnout. Sometimes it's just because people are so hard on themselves, even if they're not burnt out, with their own self-expectations. And they're super kind to others and super harsh on themselves. And they're the first to be like aggressive even with themselves. So I know I'm not a therapist, right? And this limit of sometimes you overstep your bounds, it's true. And it's a very fine line we walk sometimes as leaders who choose to get involved, because I'm a leader who chooses to get involved a lot with as much as actually everyone allows me to or wants me to, because that's also a very personal decision. Every relationship is unique. But I've actually worked more than once on people developing, on one hand, empathy, because it's something that can also be trained, like how to be a bit more empathic with others on the one hand, and on the second hand, self-compassion, which is also a very hard thing to teach. But again, leading with the example there is also very, very important. When they see you, because I have high self-expectations as well. But I learned to have these conversations with myself, like, this is okay. I can make a mistake this time. And being open about that is also a great way to get in people say, oh, okay, I can actually fail as well. And it's okay. And tell them that it's okay if they fail, right? Or it's okay if they didn't deliver today, if they still deliver tomorrow. No, there are a million examples. And there are actually a lot of exercises that you can try doing if they're open to it.
If they're open to it.
Yes.
Yamila, have you seen any differences in how men and women treat these situations?
I'm not sure, because I've had them in both cases, to be honest. I think maybe, again, I don't work with women as often as I work with men. This is very important to say. Actually, the last few years was the first time I ever had girls in my team. Because in the previous 12 years, I never had a girl in my team. So that's an important statement, because I am biased. I mostly have worked with men all my life. I've seen high expectations and self-aggressiveness in both. Maybe in women, I've noticed more aggression, level of aggression in they're less forgiving with themselves, and I can't fail because I need to prove something because I'm a woman. Not in all the cases, right? But when this aggression is really, really strong, and from this, again, sense of I can't fail, I'm the only woman here, or I can't fail, I need to prove something to a world that is full of men. That factor doesn't help with self-compassion.
Of course, there's lots of diversity both in men and women. You might see this behavior as well in men, and you might also see the what I say, the calm face towards the inside person as well. So someone who likes to go out of sight when something's wrong, or doesn't like to explain that something's wrong, or doesn't like to create conflicts if they see that there might be some boundaries that they need to draw. I have seen, I have the same problem, Yamila, like you. There are way too many men in order to notice what is the difference between men and women in behavior in tech. Yeah. But I did make some experiences, and they are super interesting. And I saw that, as you said, Yamila, that women might not even like to create conflicts also. Yeah. This is, I mean, I'm not saying that the entire group is like that. I saw just this with a certain group of women inside a team that like to create a very a really nice environment. Yeah. And of course, everyone knew that there was something in the air, but no one spoke about it. maybe one person always try to like, hey, let's speak about this. I would like to move on with this topic. Yeah, but it was nicely put under the table, without creating conflicts. But the thing is, and I saw this exploding at some point. If you don't talk about the conflicts, and it goes on for weeks and then months, and then maybe it turns into a year, this topic is still important because it moves up again from below the table on top of the table. Then eventually people will leave. Which means also women need to be able to resolve conflicts. And so there needs to be like some sort of balance between harmonic environment and like resolving conflicts, like basically what another coach would say, being able to poke. So pokeability, she says, in order to resolve the conflicts. It's what I notice in healthy teams, it's like a healthy way of being direct, as you did, Yamila, and also as the teams did with you. And I find it so interesting. And I also always tell to my members, if I don't see, like I may have like plenty of suggestions and I'm outgoing and stuff like that, but I also need to be held back. I need to have feedback because I'm going blind otherwise. Like what I'm expecting from my team is to give me feedback. Feedback. So I'm the Dr. House of the team. I have you in my team so that you give me feedback, and this like as poggy as possible. And this is what I like personally as a leader.
Yes, and it's a skill in itself, generating that environment where they will be able to be direct not only with you but with each other. Because that's like the next level, right? When they can have healthy conversations and resolve conflict without you having to like be there, ideally, right? It's a process to get there. But I think, going back to kindness is a big part of getting the team to feel that way. Like talking about psychological safety, right? Like to be able to just open up and say stuff to each other from a nice place, from a kind place, without it having to escalate into a conflict. And being kind doesn't mean you won't have difficult conversations. Like on the contrary, I think it gives you tools to have better difficult conversations. Difficult conversations are something that will happen always as a leader.
I have a question in between. What if, like we talked about being direct as a leader and wanting to have like strict and direct feedback also from the teams and stuff like that. But this is also a form of kindness, But what if, in your opinion, Yamila, if a leader or a member is too kind?
I don't think there's such a thing as excess kindness, to be honest. I mean, if you can't have a difficult conversation, it's not a kindness problem. It's a communication skill problem. You need to learn to communicate better, and then you can use kindness in the difficult conversation. And the same way, I don't think kindness interferes with keeping the team accountable or having high expectations for the team. As I said, I have high expectations of myself and of my teams. You can ask anyone in my team if I'm strict or not, and they know I am. But that has nothing to do with being kind. It actually gives me more tools to understand them and to express these high expectations and high standards that I have, and to find ways to work with them towards that. So I don't think they're not mutually exclusive, and they're not in opposition to each other. I think kindness helps all the other things. And if you have a standards problem or a difficult conversation problem, it's not related to kindness. It's another skill you need to learn to improve.
So this would basically be the solution for if a person is not communicating direct because they don't want to like create conflicts or want to hurt a person and stuff like that. What I also see in people who, if we can tell that there is such a thing as too much kindness, they might also be seen as too weak. For example, if they don't draw boundaries, and if you don't draw boundaries, you're not kind to yourself, right? And this is what I wanted to say. I have another question, Yamila.
Yeah.
How do you manage the delegate balance between being kind and ensuring accountability for performance?
Well, as I said, they're not mutually exclusive at all. Again, for me, it's a tool. The more I know people, the more trust I have, the more ways I have to reach an understanding. And people will perform, I think, the best when they're happy with what they're doing, when they're happy in the team, and when they're motivated, and when they're growing. And I can't emphasize enough growth here, because most people are motivated by growth. Not 100%, but most people are. So if you work with kindness and active listen, and this is also super important, like actually listen to what they're telling you, you understand the motivations behind what they do, what they're interested in. And then it's, I think, one of my favorite things of a leader, or the ones I have the most fun with, is finding the right goals for everyone. And this is also related to how you tie personal goals to company goals, right? But it's about understanding people's motivations on the one hand, because that's crucial. And then it's paying attention to opportunities that will arise anywhere. So finding the right goals for everyone and actually helping them make a plan to achieve them. And this is also critical, because just setting a goal but doing nothing about it won't get anyone anywhere. But like teaching them to think about goals, teach them to make plans. First, you will do it together. Eventually, they will learn how to do this plan on their own, to make it achievable, to have dates and be accountable for those dates, even if it's a personal goal, and iterate as much as possible. Those things also translate into better performance, because maybe it's a technical skill, maybe it's a communication skill. In any case, it favors everyone. It favors the person, it favors the team, and it tends to favor in the company as well. So I think being kind and building trust with the team helps me find what makes them tick. Because as Emma Sepala says, she's a professor at Yale. I did a course with her, which I loved. How can we make people exceptional and we focus on the things that they're not good at, right? We need to focus on their strengths. So if you find what makes someone tick and what they're naturally good at, those are the things where you can actually make them shine. Find goals that will make them shine, and that not only interests them, but that brings value to everyone, because there's always something that someone is good at that the rest isn't, or isn't as good as this person. And this thing that they're good at needs to be like as natural as breathing, right? Because those are the things that they're not even aware they are good at. So recognizing this and like labeling it for them and making them aware of this also helps them like grow in this area. So if you find this for every person in the team, which again, I think you can't find if you don't generate trust, if you don't listen to them, or if you don't pay attention, unless it's something extremely obvious, all of those are components that will lead to high performance individually and as a team as well.
Cool. How do you do this in a one-on-one? Can you give an example?
I think it's not just about like identifying the thing they're good at. It's not only one-on-ones. It's like in everything. Like it's paying attention to the big picture all the time. One-on-ones for me are not project related. They may be work related, but not task related. I mean, for that I have business as usual ceremonies, right? Dailies, plannings, retros. But one-on-ones for me are about first checking in with them. How are you? How have you been since the last one-on-one? Is there anything you want to share with me? Sometimes they do want to share something personal, and if that takes up the whole one-on-one, like the example you were giving today, Oliver, that they spend 5 hours walking around. Sometimes it takes the whole one-on-one. They just want to share something that is like weighing on them, and I just let that happen. It's what they need that day, and that's fine. If they don't have anything critical, it's okay. What topics do you bring to me? Because they usually always have something that they bring to me that they want to like, or my advice, or that they want to complain about, or that they want to like check in on their goals. Once we cover all of their topics, I go through mine. Maybe it's what happened from my perspective in the last week, or feedback about stuff. And then we go into the goals, because every one-on-one for me is like a check-in of the goals. How did you progress? Or why didn't you progress? Because maybe you find yourself in the situation where they're prioritizing work and deprioritizing their own goals, even if they have time assigned for them. So why are you prioritizing work over goals? Like, even you need to be the first one and make them important for them, like allowing them to care about their own personal goals, because more often than not, leaders set goals and then only want project delivery. So if you don't actually give space to this growth, you have also a conflict of interest there between what you say and what you do. So this consistency of giving them the importance that they need and that you actually care about their growth also builds trust, by the way, and will make the difference between someone staying or leaving, like the fact that you care about their growth.
I think one thing that just came to my mind is very much underestimated. What can also create trust is consistency.
Yes, of course, 100%. In several areas, like between what you say and what you do, I think that's key. You can't say something and do something else. Or maybe you do what you say to do, but you need to follow up on it. Like, give them visibility that you're doing something about it. Because if you're doing it, but they don't know about it, it's the same as not doing it in their eyes. You need to like follow up on whatever it is you're telling them. And also consistency between how you are in them in private and how you're with them in public. In the sense that if I'm, I don't know, allowing them to make mistakes in private, you also need to allow them to make mistakes in public and foster this safe psychological safety everywhere. Because again, if you operate differently in different environments, you're not consistent at all, and that also generates doubts. So yes, I think consistency, I 100% agree, is key to building trust. Definitely.
And also resilience is also a major topic in here. So what I would like to ask is, how would you build resilience within teams using kindness, preventing burnout?
Do you want me to answer in like some aspect in specific? Because you have like resilience when we are approaching, for example, a tough project, and then there's resilience to like managing frustration, because that's also like there are two very different approaches. Do you have a preference in which I go into?
Let's talk about the frustration stuff, because I might say that the first one could also be part of the second, even though they are not the same.
Okay. So again, for me, it's key to know the person, right? And again, building the trust and letting them know that it's okay to fail sometimes is key to handling frustration. I have this example. I had a junior. She had just joined the team 3-4 months ago, right? And she was doing fine until the first time I had to give her feedback that wasn't that great. I mean, she wasn't underperforming, I didn't close, but it just wasn't like a you nailed it kind of feedback. And whenever I give you feedback, first, it shouldn't be a surprise. I think that's also part of building trust. I should never like blindside you with a feedback. And secondly, it always comes with a plan. Like, let's understand what happened. How can we avoid this happening again? What is our plan to get there, right? So we make a plan. But over the next few weeks, she's doing nothing related to this plan. Like, nothing at all. And I'm like just observing, right? At the beginning, like, wow, she's completely frozen, you know? Like, she got the first bad feedback ever, and now she's frozen. It was the opposite of resilience. It was like, oh, this will not happen to me. No, it was like, I'm doing nothing at all. She broke down. So I just observed her for a couple of weeks. And then, like, in the next one-on-one, I asked her, I have a theory. Let me run it by you. Again, this is all about paying attention to people. I believe this is the first time in your life anyone has ever told you you're not perfect. Like, her face, guys, I can't explain the transformation in her face. Like, she completely broke down, and like she was like, yes, I can't fail because I'm a woman, right? And this is a very, very young person back then. And so she's like in full catharsis mode, and I'm like, okay, like, first, I've got you. Like, don't worry, I've got your back. Like, and I'm very honest here. I wish I would have had a manager when I was 20 years old who had told me, hey, it's okay, you don't need to be perfect. Because again, I have very high expectations. It's okay if you're not perfect, but you can't freeze when you're not perfect. You need to actually do the opposite. You need to go into overdrive mode to revert the situation.
Why do you think she froze?
Because again, she didn't know how to deal with the feedback. That again, like, it was a great feedback. She wasn't emotionally prepared to not being perfect. She wasn't emotionally prepared to allow herself to fail. It wasn't even a failure. Let's get this straight. It was just something that this can be done better.
Yeah. Let's compare it with something simple. Some people don't know how to code a certain way, so you teach them. And some people just don't know how to deal with a certain emotion. There are even people who don't even know a certain word. And Oliver, you know, you might know the story much better than me, for a certain emotion. And so some people also don't know how to deal with a certain situation, with certain emotion, and they don't know a certain behavior and how to properly react to it.
Exactly. This was the first time in her life she was going through this specific situation of someone giving her constructive feedback, because she was always an overachiever and an overperformer.
I would love to know more about those standards, but to me it also sounds like she had this self-image for 20 years and you just destroyed it because you provided feedback, and this is what hurts. So it sounds like what she experienced, this moment of freezing, is like a severe shock.
Yes, I think it's a mix of everything, right? Like this realization and dealing with the fact that you're not perfect, this not knowing how to handle it, because it's the first time you're going through this. It's a mix of everything, I believe. And again, it's about supporting her. So like in this case, similar to this 5-hour walk your example had, like this 2-hour talk, because it ended up being an Dango one-on-one, like it was actually all she needed. Like she told me, like literally, I have never had a conversation about these things with anyone before. So it like set her up for, okay, giving her better tools to dealing with it. We made a plan. Once we talked about this in these terms, like, don't worry, I have your back with the plan. You will get out of this. Like, don't worry, everything's good. She actually was able to start moving through the plan, knowing she was supported. But like, my feeling here is that she felt seen for the first time about something she wasn't even aware of.
Who he is.
Yes, also, exactly. I think she felt seen, and that was a game changer also in our relationship, right? Because then she trusted me with the plan, even if she didn't understand why the plan was that plan and like why I put it in place and why I suggested that. I actually told her, even if you don't agree with me or if you don't understand, trust me this time and let's do what I'm proposing. In 3 months' time, she not only improved her performance, but the next time I had to give her an even harsher feedback for unrelated stuff, she came to me with, I already know how I'm going to change this, like this will never happen to me again. Like it was the opposite reaction. And that's what we are looking for, right? This resilience and this acceptance of feedback. So yeah, that's one example of success managing frustration. A really nice one.
A big learning here might also be that making mistakes are a form of learning. And the more you're making mistakes, the faster you might be able to learn, right? So welcoming this mistake, accepting the mistake as a form of learning, I think this is a great achievement as well.
Yes, like this phrase that says there are no bad mistakes.
Exactly. So, Yamila, I would like you the signature question of Tech and Talk. What was your most positive interview experience?
I don't know if I can single one out, but like I have one in mind. For me, it's when in an interview you have this aha moment of, I would definitely enjoy working with this person. That very rarely happens to me, to be honest. Maybe it's because you think you can learn something from this person, or because you will enjoy working with this person, or because you feel you're very aligned in your personal values or your leadership values, because that's very, very important to me. But when you leave an interview where you had this aha moment, that I think not only energizes me, but leads me looking forward to the rest of the interviewing process and maybe even working there. So that can actually be the point that makes me make a decision about what company I join.
I think what you have just described is something that I always tell to CEOs who have no clue about HR or recruitment. So I always have to use extreme examples. I tell them recruitment is like dating. After all, after every date, you have, like in this date, you have to spark a feeling in this person that they want to see you again. They imagine a future with you, however that might look like. This is the overall goal. And, you know, somehow after the second or third date, you might want to close.
Exactly. Yes, it's exactly that.
It's a really nice picture, especially for people who might not know how to like lure people into your organization.
Because it also means it's not about the facts, not so much. It's about the life, the daily life that you paint.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How,
and the kind of relationships you have or you will forge.
I always tell this to CEOs or hiring managers. The job that you are trying to like fill here, it's not about the facts or like what the people do and how much they earn and la la la. This is important, yes, but it's not the main thing. It is what kind of life they would live.
Yes.
And how that would change for the better. This is how you sell the position. This is how you sell your company.
Yes.
But most have no idea.
And in terms of kindness, I've noticed that many people just want to have some safe space. And so they definitely look for leaders and interviewers who are kind to them, you know. So basically, we need to show kindness in interviews as well, right?
I know we're over time, but I want to add something.
Yeah,
like, this is not my space, but we are always talking about positive experience. I want to talk about a negative one.
Go for it.
A couple of years ago, so I was called by the head of HR to prepare me for the next day when I was like planning to go there. And she said, well, you should have a proper breakfast because the entire interview marathon will last for 4 or 5 hours. And there will be lunch somewhere in between. I thought, okay, wow, 4 or 5 hours. Like, what are you going to do with me? Like, do you want me to dance like limbo or whatever? But fine, I will not arrive hungry. So I came, I was on time. The greeting ceremony was really like formal. I thought, okay. And they have set me down in this room, the room that I was not going to leave for the next 5 hours. And they gave me a coffee. Every new person that I met came with a new cup of coffee. Do you think they ask if I want to have a coffee or a glass of water or if I want to go to pee? No. Not a single one. No matter if we are talking of a junior, team lead, C-level, not a single one. And after 4 hours, like I had a proper breakfast, but you know, after a while, you really need to eat something. The name of the CEO was also Oliver. The head of HR opened the door during the interview saying, here's a sandwich for Oliver. And it was not me the sandwich was meant for. It was for the boss. So he was sitting there in front of me having a sandwich. I was just starving to death. And the last talk was with another C-level, and he started to brag about people that we know, that we have in common. and about competitors that I found like, wow, this is really unprofessional. This is like the cherry on top of not doing the small things, offering coffee or a pee break. And this is how it went. Like, this is how it continued all over. The head of HR wanted to meet me again because after they made an offer, I said no. So she wanted to meet to talk everything through. And after we talked a bit, like we had talking about like small talk, maybe extended small talk, she then sat there saying, so I'm good, we can do this now. And I said, well, but I'm not. It blew her mind. And the reason was they haven't been kind from the very first moment on. Small things that make such a difference.
Yes.
It's a really great example of like when you are not kind to yourself, when you're not kind to your environment, and therefore also not kind to the environment that you would like to invite into your company. That we need to basically really be aware of like how we want to lead people within, like how we want to lead ourselves, but also how we want to lead the surroundings.
And those folks, they have thought about themselves, about their own comfort, their own coffee, their own break, their own sandwich, their own reasons that they need to clarify to make an offer. They have never thought about mine. So this was not same eye-level conversation. It never was. Why should I join this company selling it as a recruiter to other ones if you haven't managed to sell it to me? Like, how is this possible? No.
It was the right choice, Oliver.
Definitely. In this case, you need to be kind to yourself and just simply draw the borders and say no, as Oliver did. And with this being said, I thank you, Yamila, for being our guest today.
Thank you, guys. Amazing conversation.
Thank you.
I liked it very much as well. Thank you very much. And also thanks to Oliver for this last story. It's a very, very good one. And I also thank the audience for listening. We see each other for the next session. And so we say goodbye. Bye-bye.